Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Gannet Flemming. My name is Bob Scare, and I am the CEO and chairman. Gannet Flemming has 2,300 employees. We operate in over 65 offices, domestically and internationally. We provide engineering and architectural services and innovation services to our clients for more than 103 years. We are proud to be the site of this great important press conference for 1959. Mr. Rothman will be up to speak in just a moment. And we're honored to have our dignitaries here. Representative Greg Rothman, whose vision and leadership this would just simply not happen, is here. We have Pennsylvania Transportation Secretary Leslie Richards here, and Pennsylvania Turnpike Executive Director Mark Compton here. And it's great to have that representation here for such a forward-thinking thing that is happening to Gannet Flemming. We are proud of our culture, our family culture here at Gannet Flemming. We focus on our communities and our employees. And on the latter, I would just like to mention that we make safety a top priority here at Gannet Flemming. And to make safety visible, we require that all meetings have a safety moment to start that meeting. And this meeting is no exception. So for the safety moment, I thought I would emphasize and highlight that in the past 10 years or so, close to 1,200 workers have lost their lives in work zones on our highways. These are our fathers and mothers and children, and it's not acceptable. And in the vein of, with the Thanksgiving holiday just around the corner, I thought it was appropriate to remind you of the dangers of work zones and ask that everybody pay attention to the speed limits, follow the speed limit signs, follow a safe distance behind the car in front of you to make them safe so nobody gets hurt. So, we are a proud founding member of the Automated Vehicle Coalition. And with that, I'd like to invite the executive director of that coalition to come up and make a few remarks and some introductions.
Good afternoon. My name is Vince Galco, and I am the executive director of the Automated Vehicle Coalition. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. It's been said that innovation separates the leaders from the followers, and I don't think that's any more evident than here in Pennsylvania, especially on the topic that we're covering today. We are extremely fortunate to have strong leadership in our legislature led by Representative Greg Rothman, who shepherded this bill through the legislature for us, as well as the leadership of Secretary Richards and the Wolf administration to make sure it got across the finish line. In addition to that, we are blessed to have many great innovators in the state, many of whom are members of our coalition, and I hope you get a chance to meet them today. It's now my pleasure to bring up another great innovator and leader, and our president of our Automated Vehicle Coalition, Laurie Matkowski, to lead our program.
Thank you, Vince, and thank you for your leadership for the Automated Vehicle Coalition. The Automated Vehicle Coalition was founded as a nonprofit grassroots organization. We have a mission to improve roads and communities for a safe and responsible future. We are a group of like-minded companies that believe properly implemented, connected, and automated travel has the potential to improve quality of life. Gannet Flemming, along with other founding board members, Esri, Cisco, Royal Truck and Equipment, Kuharchuk Construction, Phoenix Contact, we welcome all suppliers, consultants, and manufacturers providing services to the connected and automated vehicle industry to join us. As president of the AVC, I congratulate Pennsylvania for taking an important step forward with passage of this legislation. It speaks directly to the protection of our highway workers, efficient movement of goods and freight, and promotion of traveler safety. The AVC looks forward to continually supporting connected and automated vehicle advancements like autonomous truck-mounted attenuators and driver-assistive truck platooning for Pennsylvania and for other states interested in this technology. With that, I introduce a champion of transformative technology in the transportation world with Pennsylvania's Secretary of Transportation, Leslie Richards.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. We've been looking forward to this day for some time, and I don't think it's it's an accident that we are here at Gannet Flemming. I have to say, I remember my first meeting with Bob and Eric Rensel in my office. These guys think out of the box, and I could feel their heads spinning with all these wonderful, innovative ideas, and how could we move them forward here in Pennsylvania. Of course, I know Esther McGinnis for years, also at Gannet, from my years in the private sector, as well as the public sector back in southeastern Pennsylvania. And Laurie Matkowski also have worked for so long, and I think wonderful to see her on your team as well. We would not be here without our private partners as well as our public partners. Up until now, I have enjoyed being introduced as a national leader in autonomous and connected vehicles, even more so because we were always mentioned in the same breath as California and Michigan, and yet we didn't have legislation. And they wanted to know, how have you been able to propel Pennsylvania up to the forefront without the tool of having legislation behind you? And I would always just say it's just the magic of being in Pennsylvania, and we don't give up in Pennsylvania. And we have a wonderful team. I'm happy to give up that title now and be a leader with legislation. It's much better to be a leader with the legislation than without it. But I did enjoy that for a while, and I'm happy to have the new title as one of the leaders with this very strong law that was really shepherded by Representative Rothman and his colleagues to get across. So to be here today to celebrate such an important legislation that Governor Tom Wolf recently signed into law, Act 117, which is previously known as House Bill 1958. And I will say it is one of only 2 bills that I have asked the governor to have the pen that he signed one of the bills with, as well as the formal documentation, which will be framed shortly and hanging in my office, because it will truly help us increase safety for our roadway workers and oversee deployment of highly automated vehicle technologies on our roadways. You'll hear more details on the law today from others, but I want to touch on a very important and exciting detail from PennDOT's perspective. As part of the law, PennDOT will establish a highly automated vehicle advisory committee to advise and consult on aspects of highly automated vehicles and platooning. The committee may develop technical guidance, evaluate best practices, review existing laws, regulations, and policies, and engage in continued research and evaluation of connected and automated systems technology. This will build on our continued efforts to ensure safe testing, deployment, and continued innovation in Pennsylvania. The law allows platooning or connectivity of 2 to 3 buses, military vehicles, or motor carriers on limited access highways or interstate highways, as permitted by PennDOT and the Pennsylvania Turnpike Commission. Additionally, I'm grateful that the law allows PennDOT and the Turnpike Commission to implement highly automated work zone vehicles. These vehicles are impacted by traffic in work zones far too often, and this law will help us get our workers out of harm's way. I can't tell you enough. Every agency leader, I know Mark shares my concerns. Our worst days are when we wake up to find out that some of our roadway workers have been injured and God forbid, killed while they are doing the work to keep our transportation network in the state of good repair, as well as highest safety standards. And to have this vehicle to make sure that our workers, as well as our contractors who work for us, will be as safe as possible is just tremendous. It's so important because even one instance of a worker being injured or killed in the line of duty is totally unacceptable. Between 2012 and 2016, we saw an average 5% increase a year in work zone crashes. We also saw a steady increase in work zone crashes on the interstates and Turnpike from 618 in 2012 to over 1,000 in 2016. We simply must take steps to reverse these trends and keep all of our team members safe. Not hard to believe as distracted driving becomes more of an incident and more of something that is challenging, particularly to our younger drivers. And so that is why, one of the reasons why this legislation is so important. I want our people and their families to be as confident as possible that when they venture onto our road system every day, they're going home healthy to their friends and family when their work is done. This law is one more step in our efforts to make that a reality. And moving forward, we'll work with our staff, other agencies, and private sector to identify best practices to implement these safety measures. So without further delay, I have the honor of turning the microphone over to Representative Rothman. And I just have to say before he comes up here, this legislation would not have been signed, definitely not in the time period that it was, and would not have moved along as easily without his leadership. We're so grateful that he was willing to do so, and he saw the promise of this legislation, how it could save lives, how it could modernize our system, and how it could really move us into the 21st century and beyond. So with that, Representative Rothman.
Thank you, Secretary Richards. Thank you for being here in the 87th District, which is I have the honor to represent. Bob, thank you, and Eric, and the people at Gannet Flemming. This is the heart of my district, and it's exciting that Gannet Flemming has taken a lead role in this important issue. Also, thank you, Laurie and Vince, for what you've done with this coalition, which also, you know, it's they say that failure is an orphan and success has many parents. Well, we were successful because of a lot of people who deserve the credit for it. And so I thank you for what the coalition has done, and thank you again at Flemming. And it would have not happened without the Secretary's support and the Governor's support, of course, in signing the law. House Bill 1958, which is now Act 117, which I sponsored, authorizes platooning of motor carrier vehicles as well as the use of fully autonomous work zone vehicles in the Pennsylvania Turnpike and through PennDOT. And it's no accident that we're here today on the eve of, I believe, the most traveled day in America, where people are traveling for Thanksgiving, as well as the kickoff of our holiday shopping season, which Central Pennsylvania has long been, since the Conestoga Wagons, a distribution center, and we will continue to be a leader in e-commerce. So when you order your packages for the holidays, they're going to come through our roads and highways to be delivered to your neighborhoods, and this legislation will help in the efficiency of distribution of goods, as well as the most important thing is safety. I have the honor of representing two large highway safety companies, or highway construction companies, Penzi and Hemp Brothers, and when I met with them early in my term in office, I asked what the most important thing to them was. What could I do to make their lives and their businesses better? And I expected deregulation or tax policy or something with involving their operation of the business. And what they both told me, both of those groups told me, is help us bring our highway workers home safely, and help us do that through legislation. And so while we're here to celebrate Act 117, the legislature also passed cameras in work zone, which will help in safety. And we have a whole agenda moving forward in the next session on distracted driving and local radar, which is my bill, and we will look for other ways to use technology to protect the people on the roads. And it's fascinating what's going on in this field, in this industry. We're hoping that this also helps with the brain drain in Pennsylvania and attracts young people when they find out that Pennsylvania is a leader in autonomous vehicle technology and a leader in using technology to improve our lives. And I expect we will have even more activity on the legislative front next session with all your help. So thank you very much for all being here today, and
I'd like to introduce the Executive Director of the Turnpike Commission, Compton.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's great to be here, great to be with you. There used to be an old adage in Pennsylvania. Once again, Pennsylvania is happy to be the 40th state to try something. Think about that, out of the 50. Well, what you've proven with this effort this year, that's no longer the case. We're very proud, very happy to be a part of that. What does this mean for us? What this means for the Pennsylvania Turnpike is last year, there were 22 work zone incidents that involved attenuators being struck. That's 22 of our employees just last year alone whose chances of going home safe that evening were inhibited by these factors. Because of your efforts, because of making transportation in this issue important to the General Assembly, that next year moving forward may no longer be the case. We thank you for that. Thank you for the leadership of the folks in this room. I want to thanks to my boss, Secretary Richards, who serves as chair in her off time of the Pennsylvania Turnpike. Thanks to the governor for his willingness to be part of these conversations and his signature. And thanks to Mr. Greg Rothman, who, there were some people in his shoes used to say, son, good news about transportation is you're always one of the top 5 issues. Bad news about transportation, you're never the top 1 issue. Well, Greg Rothman and many of his colleagues decided that's not the case on this issue. And this being Thanksgiving week, we thank you from the bottom of our heart. Our employees thank you. This is a very big deal. Thank you.
So we are concluding the prepared speaking parts, and I want to make available everybody here that's spoken to answer some of your questions, as well as Dave Bonsick, who represents Peloton, one of the connected truck platooning, connected, I want to say it right, driver assistive truck platooning companies. So when we also have, I believe it's Royal Truck and Equipment is going to be outside after this so that you can see their truck and you can ask them questions as well. I just want to thank everybody on the board of directors from the AVC, and so I don't miss anybody. I'm going to read it off again: Esri, Cisco, Royal Truck and Equipment, Econolite, Phoenix Contact, and Kuharchek Construction. We are founding board members, but we are adding members all the time because it takes a group of us together to really support this industry in the right direction. Let's see, with that, I will start fielding questions from my perspective and then handing it off to whoever is the appropriate person to answer.
So explain, how would this make the road safer? I never heard it's going to make everything safer, but how in work areas?
Can I field it to Representative Rothman or Secretary Richards? You can join me up here.
I'll start.
It's a great question to start off with.
I think Mark mentioned the attenuators.
You have the microphone. Thank you.
The attenuator is the vehicle at the end of a work zone that it looks like an accordion, and you may recognize it. Now you'll recognize it when you see it. I think there are 75 or so in the fleet that are used, and right now someone has to sit in that attenuator, driving it or waiting for it to move, which means someone's going to be that morning when the accident occurs in the vehicle that's hit. It's supposed to be a barrier, but there's someone actually in the vehicle. So the technology that Royal Trucking has allows for someone not to be sitting in that attenuator, and they can actually, from a vehicle in front, lead that vehicle along. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that the technology for platooning allows 3 motor carriers or buses to be operating where if you're the third driver or the second driver, you know now what's going on up ahead. So it's about reaction time as well. So those are the 2 areas, from my perspective, where safety.
I'll just build on that. The autonomous and the automated and connected vehicle technology really helps us cut down on distracted driving, especially when we're looking at trucking and platooning, where it's also been challenging for us to get new truck drivers into the industry. And so while this bill helps us develop this technology and helps the public become more comfortable with this technology, overall automated and connected vehicle technology will help us drive down that distracted driving. Last year, we had the all-time low of fatalities here in Pennsylvania, but we still had 1,137 fatalities. While that's the lowest number since we've been keeping records in 1928, we're very proud of it, it's still 1,137 too many. And with 94% of those fatalities being attributed to human distraction, we know that this technology is going to drive down that number significantly. So this is the first step. We'll be looking at other legislation that will help us with passenger vehicles and other vehicles. But this is a huge milestone for us. And as Representative Rothman said, we'll protect our roadway workers and put those workers out of harm's way by allowing those trucks, that they're called crash trucks because they take on the impact of a car or of any type of vehicle, a tractor trailer, any vehicle that goes into our work zone, possibly if they're distracted, they're going to our work zone, there may be other reasons. And so the impact of that crash will not be felt by the driver because it will be an automated vehicle instead of one that has a traditional driver.
We have that now. I know PennDOT had an incident with the truck on 83 that was rear-ended, okay, and unfortunately, I think somebody lost their life in that accident, if I recall. And so this will be like those PennDOT trucks, but nobody in them, correct?
Correct. And we'll be able to take the brunt of that impact and protect everyone else working in that work zone. And that's what that crash truck is for. But obviously, it'll be even safer without a person in that car.
While there are plenty of benefits, are there any negative dangers or higher risks involved with this kind of technology that aren't posed when you have a driver?
Well,
Yeah,
I mean, I can answer, only in that I spent time at Stanford at the Center for Automotive Research and asked those questions about testing, and the groups out we had Uber in Pittsburgh has driverless vehicles. Remember, these are machines that are doing it, but we already rely on machines, and most of our cars you're driving today are operated by computers. So the question is, can you respond as quickly, can you react as quickly as a computer? And the answer is no, you can't. And we have vehicles, airplanes that fly on autopilot and land on autopilot because the computer can do things. I was reading today about a robotic dog that they're going to use to replace bomb sniffing dogs because they've actually been able to train the computer to do it even faster. And so a new driver, I have a 17-year-old daughter, learns about every week to react to something new while she's driving. You can teach a computer to react to all of our reactions, all of our experiences, where they're reacting so much faster. So I don't think at all. I mean, it's no more than what exists today. But I think the fact that you can have a machine and a computer react faster than a human, then that creates a safety.
I guess the argument too is if there is an issue, there's still no bodies involved. So.
Yeah, and that's there's a moral issue on the testing where if you're going to test driverless vehicles, how do they react to the other vehicles? And generally the issue, there's all kinds of issues that we're going to be dealing with in the next legislative session that the coalition is going to be dealing with on insurance and who's responsible. But it's more of what happens with the driver vehicle hitting the driverless vehicle and who pays for that. And there's expensive technology. But we passed my bill in the House without a single negative vote. And in committee, when we had discussion, someone said, well, what about safety? And the answer is, if you care about safety, this is good legislation.
I'll just real quick, just the national organization that all DOT secretaries belong to has this as one of their priorities. Every single state voted unanimously to promote, and we all understand that the safety impacts, the huge positive impacts of this technology, but there are a lot of unknowns, and that's why I'm so proud to be in a state with innovative leaders and thinkers like Representative Rothman, our governor, and those at PennDOT, those in this room. We all know the promise, and we want to be leaders. This technology is coming. There is no question about it. And we prefer to lead on that technology instead of wait and let others develop it.
And what's the timeframe on this, Bill? Just to go around implement it, or is it pretty soon?
You know what, I see Mark and Roger, who've been working on this every single day at PennDOT. Mark, if you want to give a timeline as well as comment on any of the other questions that have been asked. Mark Kopko.
The bill goes into effect in 180 days, which is April 22nd. Once the bill comes into effect, we are working with partnerships at the PennDOT, Pennsylvania Turnpike Commission, other key stakeholders, Pennsylvania State Police, to come up with policies and procedures to roll out, and standard operating procedures. So we'll gradually roll out things as a standard the coming months, but it will go into effect the bill on April 22nd.
We're also working on the first ever of its kind test track in coordination with the Turnpike Commission, Federal Highway Administration, and Penn State. Those plans are in development right now, and we will have a very high level, again, one of a kind test track where we can test a lot of these vehicles. We can do high-speed interchange movements. We're looking at emergency response vehicles as well as work zone vehicles, and we're really excited. We have a good head start on that, and that will be coming as well. And we'll be announcing deadlines on that as well. It's called Penn Start. Anyone have anything else to add? You want to take over then?
Thanks. So thank you, everybody, for coming today. This is, as you've heard, a very great step into protecting our workers and our travelers in Pennsylvania. And I'm so glad to be a part of it in some way. And the leadership that we're in this room, the leadership here is just outstanding. And I'm very, very happy to be here. I see our Royal Truck and Equipment representative here, so that means the truck is outside. And I do invite everybody to come outside, and all of us here are available for interviews if you'd like. I know some media is here, and that is it. So thank you very much again.